Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Bebo. This is part 2 of our unit rates involving ratios of fractions lesson. In this video, we're going to look at more complicated examples that will build on what we talked about in video 1. So if you were able to understand what we were talking about in video 1, then this is the right sequence moving into video 2. So what's going to happen in these examples? I got 2 of them total, and we're going to go through and see problems where we actually have to do a unit conversion before we can find the unit rate. So these examples are actually taken from a textbook that I use with my students called Reveal Math. So if your teacher happens to use that as well, they're probably going to look pretty familiar. And if not, no worries. They're still really great examples no matter what text that your teacher uses. So in this first example, it says we're going to find the unit rate. And it says Mr. Garcia is spreading mulch in his yard. He spreads 3 square yards in 40 minutes. We want to know how many square yards can he mulch in 1 hour. So if we take a look at that question again, that's where we're noticing that it does change to hours. And in our problem, it tells us that in minutes. So there are many approaches to this problem, but the simplest one is going to be to take our time, which is now in minutes, and convert that to hours. So to do that, we just need to think, how many minutes are in 1 hour? Well, hopefully you remember that there's 60. And so we can go ahead and take this and say, all right, well, I got 40 out of 60. And again, 40 minutes out of 60 minutes. And we can create that fraction of an hour. So simplifying this, both of these can be divided by 20. And then we're going to get our fraction 2/3. So that's the amount of time. 40 minutes is 2/3 of an hour. So now that we have that, we can go through and focus on finding the unit rate for this problem. But that was step 1. You have to take your time and convert it so that it's in the same unit as what the problem is asking. So speaking of the problem, how many square yards can he mulch in 1 hour? As we previously talked about, when we take a look at the question, it does tell you the order in which to divide. That is so key to being able to solve these problems correctly, because if you do the division backwards, you're not going to have the correct unit rate. So when I look at this, it says, how many square yards can he mulch in 1 hour? So we want to know square yards per hour. So that's the order in which we're going to divide. So in this question, what's going to happen is we're going to end up having our 3 square yards, and then we have this 2/3 of an hour that we came up with. Those are the 2 numbers we're going to use in our division problem. So we're going to take 3 square yards, divide that by our time, which is now in hours, 2/3. So just like we talked about last time, when we divide with fractions, if you have a whole number, we're going to write that over 1. So give it a denominator of 1. And then we're going to change the division into multiplication. And then we can go ahead and flip that second fraction to its reciprocal. So now it becomes 3/2. And then we multiply across the top, multiply our numerators, and then we multiply across the bottom, multiplying our denominators, right? So we're going to do 3 times 3 and 1 times 2. And so that's going to give us an answer of 9/2. Again, just to make a little bit more sense of this, we're going to go ahead and convert this into its mixed number. So instead of leaving it as an improper fraction, we'll go ahead and change it to a mixed number. Or if your teacher's okay with it, you can also write this as a decimal, because this would turn out to be a nice decimal as well. I'm going to go ahead and just change it to a mixed number. So again, we ask ourselves, how many times can 2 go into 9? It can go in there a total of 4 times, because that's 8, which means there's going to be 1 left over. So we get 4.5 as our final answer. So we have 4.5 square yards. All right, so for our last example in this video, we are again doing the same idea, and you're going to see that the question is very, very similar to the last problem. So in this one, it says we're going to find a unit rate, and it says Aubrey can walk 2/3 of a mile in 10 minutes. What is Aubrey's average speed in miles per hour? So once again, we have that issue where they're telling us her initial rate in minutes, but then the problem says we want it in miles per hour. So thankfully, we only have to do 1 unit conversion. And again, there are multiple ways that you can approach this. You could go through the question using everything in minutes and then converting at the end. But honestly, I think the easiest thing is to start with your time and just get it into the proper unit. So we're going to take our 10 minutes, just like we did last time. And again, to figure out the fraction of an hour, we put 10 over however many minutes are in an hour, which again is 60. So we're going to write 10 out of 60. So 10 minutes out of 60 minutes. Both of these can be divided by 10. And that's going to give us 1/6 of an hour. So step one, take your time in minutes, convert it to the number of hours by just creating, again, essentially a ratio. 10 minutes for every 60 minutes. It's 1/6 of an hour. So once I have my time, again, we're going to take a look at the question. It says, what is Aubrey's average speed in miles per hour? So miles per hour, that's the order in which we have to divide. So we do get Aubrey's distance, which is 2/3 in the initial problem. And then we do have our time now in hours is 1/6. So that's the division we're going to be doing. And again, the order is stated in the question, miles per hour. So we're going to do 2/3 divided by 1/6. And doing this division is going to tell us how many miles are in 1 hour that she can walk. So just like before, we're going to keep change flip. So keep the first fraction. We're going to change the division multiplication, change the second fraction to its reciprocal. This one's super nice because we can do some cross canceling, which I love. So the 3 and the 6 have a common factor of 3, so they can both be divided by 3, which helps us to, again, just simplify the problem earlier rather than saving the simplifying for the end. As I mentioned before, if you want to multiply it across the top and multiply across the bottom and then simplify at the end, you are more than welcome to, but I like to simplify earlier if possible by cross canceling. So 3 and 6, again, common factor of 3. 3 divided by 3 turns this into a 1. 6 divided by 3 turns this one into a 2. And now we multiply our numerators. 2 times 2 is going to be 4, and 1 times 1 is 1. And so we get a nice whole number on this one. Her average speed is 4 miles per hour. And that's it for this video. So if you have any questions or need to review it again, please feel free to watch this video as many times as needed. And make sure you stay tuned for video number 3, which will go through our story problems.